Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear us well. If you can somebody just type in the question field that you can hear us? Hello? Kimberly, can you hear us? Hello? Kimberly? Okay. I'm going to assume that everybody can hear us today. Welcome to our live presentation on what to expect when you come to Sheridan, specifically at the Faculty of Applied Science and Technology. Today we have with us Philip Stubbs, who's the Associate Dean for the School of Applied Computing, and Joseph Arasa, who's a Program Coordinator for the School of Applied Computing. I'm going to start out by asking you, Philip, what should students expect academically in the FAST department?
I think that the one thing that we focus our energies on here at Sheridan College is the practical nature of the education. It's really imperative that when students come to us that they know that they're coming into an environment that first and foremost is a mobile environment, which may be very, very different for many of you, in that in every classroom, in every subject in the Faculty of Applied Science and Technology, it's mobile enabled. And what that means is that you will have a computer in front of you, you're to bring a computer, that the materials for lectures and the assignments are all available through online learning management systems, and that the focus is practicality, is that we're looking to provide theory, but to give students the skill sets, the competencies to in fact do something. Because let's face it, the reason that you're going to come to Sheridan College is to go out into the workforce and get a really good job. You want to be able to say to somebody, yes, I can do that. So in previous instances, or where students have come to us from other education, often they're very good at the theory, but they're not so very much good at the practical nature of doing things. And one of the things that is really very imperative that you do prior to coming to Sheridan College is to make sure that you have made arrangements for a good laptop. And there are facilities available on the Sheridan College website that will allow you to test your laptop against our expectations. One of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to get a substandard laptop and not be able to participate in the class. It's also imperative that students, everybody bring their own laptop. It's not something that you can share with a bunch of people. It's really, because again, it's that practical nature. So when you're in a classroom, you can all see that we've got laptops in front of us. When you're in a classroom, what you're going to experience is that a professor will give you some theory, and then they're going to say, okay, well, let's go into your machine right then and there, that instant, and do something. And then there's going to be a review, and then subsequently they'll do a little more theory, and then they'll go back to the machine. So it's a very, very fluid type of activity, and this is something that's new for a lot of our international students.
And what would you say, Joe, in terms of the hours that students are expected to study outside their lecture and classrooms?
Yeah, we generally advise students to plan on spending approximately 1 hour of study time for every hour that they spend in the classroom. So many students may start off with a classroom load of approximately, let's say, 21 hours. We would anticipate that they would spend another 21 hours studying, completing assigned homework, etc.
Okay. What would you say then, Philip, in terms of adjusting to the Canadian classroom? What tips would you give these students?
I think that there's a number of things that I would focus on, and one of the first ones would be that within the learning outcomes at Sheridan and perhaps in the Canadian environment, is that often there are many ways of doing something, that it isn't a right or wrong answer. It isn't yes or no, it isn't binary, it isn't 0 or 1. there are many ways of doing things. And what we're looking for with students is that ability to problem solve on your own, problem solve with unique solutions, come up with unique ideas. And that's probably a big difference. I've talked to a number of my colleagues that have taught in other parts of the world, specifically in India, and often they've presented the idea that the learning from that point of time is very specific. There is a right answer. In Canada and in Western culture, often what you're going to find is that there are many answers, many possibilities, and the trick is to finding not one answer, but the better answer, the best answer to a particular situation. And as such, one of the things that coping is learning how to do good, valid research, and then taking that research and applying your own perspective to it, so that you're asking yourself, why is this a good solution, or why is that a good solution, and how do you compare all of it? So it's a different type of environment. It's a more fluid type of environment, and it's very situational. That there isn't an answer to each question. There is an answer. There is the right answer or a better answer for the situation at that moment in time, and that may differ from time to time to time. And so those are some issues that are going to come as a consequence. If you're looking at the slides, one of the things that pops out is that concept of critical thinking. Our professors look for students that are really able to look at a problem from a variety of different angles, not just very singularly, but from a variety of different ways, and develop those problem-solving skills. Employers in North America are looking for people that have good problem-solving types of techniques, and that's part of that creativity.
Okay. And what would you say about the pace of the lectures and the labs, and what would you say to a student who would miss even one class?
I can give you a mathematical answer to that.
Okay.
So the mathematical answer to that would be that if you have 14 classes, and that's the length of the semester, you have 14 classes, and so you're in class for 3 hours a week. And that's a block of 3 hours. So you're in class, that's your class for the week, and then you won't have that class again until the following week. So if you miss one class, for example, for whatever reasons, then you've missed 1/14 of the class. But if you miss 2 classes, now you've missed 1/7 of the class. And if you continue down that path, if you miss 3 classes, well, at that point in time, you're almost down to 1/4 of the time spent in classroom that you've missed that material. And while a lot of students mistake that because of the mobile environment, that, oh, it doesn't matter, I can be online, or I can look at the materials, or I can ask a buddy, what happens in the classroom is imperative to your learning. It's really important because there are things that are going to happen in the classroom with your professor that take the information that's presented to you and make it real, make it practical, make it part of how you are going to develop those critical skills.
Okay. So as program coordinator and Professor Joe, I know you've worked a lot with international students, and you put together some fast peer mentors to help incoming students. I would ask you, in your opinion, what is the expectations of the faculty and the instructors and the professors of all students?
Yeah, one of the first things is that we generally expect students to be interested in the subject matter. And that really goes a long way. We also, as Phil mentioned, we expect them to attend class regularly and to be engaged during class time. As Phil was talking about, during classes, a lot of us, it's almost like telling a story. We're walking them through different exercises. It's very interactive. And although we publish the materials online, it's really not the same as being there. So being there is very important. We also expect them to complete assigned activities, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So this is very important for basically keeping up with the pace of the lectures. Another important thing is for students to ask questions if they're having problems. It's not always obvious to the instructor who's struggling at a particular moment in time, so the onus in many cases falls on the student to put up their hand to let us know that they're encountering some difficulties.
Just on that comment, I know that sometimes coming to a new country is challenging. It's very difficult. Anybody that's traveled a long way to go to school, you may feel out of place. You may, and it may be very difficult to acknowledge that you are having a challenge. I have to stress with Joe that it's really imperative that if you're not comfortable asking the question in class, then see your professor after the classroom and say, oh, you know what, I really didn't understand that, or can you spend a little more time with me to improve my understanding of that particular material. If we know anything, one of the things that we do know is that students who come to us from different environments, and that's both our international and our domestic population, if students are uncomfortable acknowledging that they may be struggling with an issue, then they're likely to fall behind very, very quickly. And simply by going back to, you only have 14 classes in a 3-credit course. You only have 14 classes. Those will go by very, very quickly. They'll up and disappear. The other thing that I would say is that it's really important to be in the right program. We know that you've come a long way. We hope that you've done your research. We hope you've gotten good guidance. But we also know that lots of times, once you get involved in a program, that you may find that it's not the right program. Because of student visas, because of the time limitation on your student visas, because of a lot of pressure both from you personally and from home, et cetera, it's very important for you to address issues earlier than later, because what you're going to find is that if you miss a course, if you fail a course, it will significantly impact your ability to move on to the next semester. And as Joe said, we want you to be engaged in the learning. And part of being engaged in learning is being in the right program. That comes back to asking the right questions. We have a host of things that over the course of this presentation we're going to talk about in terms of resources, but I would note that one of the things that I would say about Sheridan College that perhaps sets us aside from other academic institutions is we spend a great deal of effort, energy, and people time to provide students, both domestic and international, with the resources to be successful. And one of the things that you need to learn early on in your time here is what are those resources and how do I take advantage of them?
While we're still on this topic, last question on this topic, I promise. We've discussed in the past that you've come across some students who are not really completely aware of what the program that they chose is about. What would you say to those students before they even make that decision?
In terms of choosing a program or before they come here? Before
they even come here. Like they have certain expectations of a program.
Often there's an old phrase. It's an English phrase. It says right from the horse's mouth, and that probably won't mean much to many of you. But what it means is get the information from the right individual. One of the things that we find with a lot of the international students is that because it's a very selective community, because you're friends, that lots of times instead of asking the right person, you'll ask a buddy, you'll ask a friend, you'll say, okay, what's the right answer? And so I would go back to take advantage of the resources that are available through Sheridan College and post questions that somebody can give you a really solid answer. At the end of the presentation, I'll give you my email address, and if you have a question about our programs, if you have asked your friends and you've asked colleagues and you've asked contacts in your country and you haven't really gotten an answer, then you know what? At the risk of sounding ridiculous, you need to get the answer from the horse's mouth, and in this case, I guess I'm I'm the horse, so you can ask me. Just because I look at it this way. As the Associate Dean for the Faculty of Applied Science and Technology, I'm responsible for every student. Every student that comes to the faculty are my students. It's not just a student in the classroom, they're all my students. And I want to make sure that you're successful, but it's really important in that success that you make some right choices. So I think those are the things that I would say to folks. The other thing is, and I'm assuming that people are looking at the slides, and if you have questions about what's up on the slides, what I would say to you folks is post a question relative to some of the bullets up here. One of the pressures that you're going to find here at Sheridan College is this concept of academic honesty, and it goes back to asking your buddies what the answer is. One of the things that we find is that many of our international students, domestic students as well, but in our international students, is that you're so concerned about getting the right answer, is that rather than presenting an answer that is yours, and subsequently perhaps it's not quite right or whatever, that too often you end up asking a buddy and trying to get assistance from a friend. Your success here will hinge greatly on developing the skills to be able to talk to your professors, because those are the right folks. And if not those, tutors. Friends are great, but you want to get the information from the right people.
On the academic honesty point, I just wanted to follow up with a couple things. The two biggest areas that students typically struggle with are, sometimes an assignment is an individual assignment. And you need to respect that and not complete the assignment as a group. Other assignments, it's clearly specified it's a group assignment. So bear that in mind. And the other area, of course, is if you're writing reports and you're doing some research, then you need to be careful about any work that you're using from another source that you cited properly in your report. So citations and group work tend to be the areas of most difficulty.
For those of you who are present now, I hope you join us in the next session where we'll be talking more about library services and how you can get help in figuring out how to properly reference your research material. We talk a lot about Sheridan being a mobile environment, okay? Could you perhaps share, Joe, what is a mobile environment and what do students need to do to be part of that environment?
In many classrooms, the laptop really is central to the learning. So in many cases, slides are available. Students can be looking at them as the lecture is going on. But more importantly, a lot of the exercises are interactive. So the professor may ask everyone to do a particular assignment, and he or she will demonstrate at the front of the classroom and ask all of the students to follow along. So that's one key area of the mobile classroom. Another one is also for assessment. Many of us also for assessment, it's also done online. So again, that's another key area of the mobile environment. Phil?
And to that point about assessment and materials, and et cetera, there are lots of things that you're going to, as a consequence of being a Sheridan student, especially in the Faculty of Applied Science and Technology, you're going to get access to. And we give you this access because you're a Sheridan student. So there's going to be a variety of online texts. There are going to be a variety of software that you'll be able to download, and it'll be expected that you download, because those will be the things that you in fact will use for being successful in the classroom. I come back to that laptop requirement. It's really important that you have a good, solid device that isn't a dated device. And I know that for many of you, that's a little frightening, and how much money should I be spending, and should I buy something in my home country, or should I wait till I come to Canada to get something? Those are your choices. What I would say is this, is that check out the laptop specifications for your particular program before you come to Canada, and make sure that you have made every effort to have that device. Moreover, it's important to have legitimate software. We've had a couple of instances, and I'm just sharing this with you, where people have had copied operating systems. We have gone to, say, Microsoft Windows and have illegitimate copies of Microsoft Windows. And ultimately, when you get on Sheridan's system, that will catch you up. It won't be accepted. So if you don't have an operating system, if you don't have a Windows operating system, then what you probably want to do is wait till you come to Canada, because the machines here are preloaded with at least the operating environment, and then you're going to be in a better situation. But it's really important to understand that this mobile is a very different way of learning, that a lot of the materials, so a faculty member, for example, may say to you, go online and read this text. It won't be that you're going to a bookstore, that you're purchasing lots and lots and lots of texts. You will in some classes, there's no getting away from it. But a lot of times that material is available to you in different library resources. One of them that you'll come across is one called Books 24/7. A lot of our faculty use that as a vehicle. But again, because you're doing so much online, it's imperative to choose the right laptop. So you don't want a tablet. You don't want to be really reading something off a 5-inch screen, because that's going to be impossible. You want to choose the right device. I'm not saying you have to go out. One of the questions from Michael is about gaming. Michael, I don't need you to go out and buy a high-end gaming machine, not just yet, but you may if you want to get into programming. And I'll talk a little bit about game programming in a second, because that's one of the questions up online. But we do need you to have good, solid tools. And the laptop should be viewed as a tool for your success.
Right. What would you say, we've already talked about the ramifications of a late start, okay? But if you want to emphasize a little bit more, not only of people coming late, but also people not attending a lot of classes because they're busy doing other things.
So I'd like to speak to this one, because I know that some students right now are facing some challenges in getting your student visa. And so I can say to you that we've made some decisions about the date to sign up for courses. So typically, the last date to sign up for courses would have normally been the Friday of the first week of classes, which I think is the 6th or 7th of September. We've actually extended that date out to the 16th of September, and we're going to be working with our faculty to modify their classroom plans to accommodate our international population that may have had some difficulties in getting your student visa. However, having said that, not being in a classroom, and again, you're grown-ups. You wouldn't be traveling all this way to study this course, to take part in this education, unless you were serious about doing this. It's imperative that you be in class. There's just no other way of saying that. It's imperative for you to say, I have to be in that classroom, even if it's 8 o'clock in the morning. And classrooms, the times of classes, you could have an 8 o'clock class, and then you could have a break, and then you could have a 2 o'clock class, and that would go from 2 to 5. It's very possible that you might have a 6 or 7 p.m. class that would go to 10 p.m. at night. The time for classroom studies is from 8 in the morning till 10 p.m. in the evening, and your classes could be spread throughout that schedule. One of the questions that came up is, when can I find my schedule? Where can I find my schedule? We're going to talk about that in a second, but what you should be aware is that your schedule will be throughout the entire week. Choosing to come to classes is part of that success story. If you're going to travel all the distance to come here, then you better choose to be part of the classroom environment. A little later on, we're going to talk a little bit about work, and I'll just talk about that for a moment. many of our international students, our domestic students as well, make a big mistake. And one of the big mistakes is that for financial reasons, which we fully understand, that they take a job. If you take a part-time job, what we know is that the amount of time that you should spend at a part-time job shouldn't be any greater than perhaps 10 hours in a 7-day period. That's not a lot of time. If you do any more of that, if you think back to what Joe said in terms of 21 hours of in-class time should be accommodated with 21 hours of study time, and if you're working or doing those other things, you're really going to lose sight on the fact that, as the slide says, your studies come first. They need to come first because they need to come first from that employment perspective. You really want to get a job. This is part of this, is that coming to this institution is to provide you with this practical skill set so that you can go out and say to an employer, please hire me. And for those of you that are in 2-year programs, that's a straight through, and you then subsequently go out into the workforce. For those of you who are in advanced diplomas, that's a 3-year program, and many of our advanced diplomas have a co-op work experience embedded in that. And again, that's competition. You are not guaranteed a co-op employment. You need to compete for it. And competing means to be as well prepared as you possibly can.
So, Joe, given that you really are a main champion for making sure that students are successful and connecting them with senior students to help them out, what would you say to students? When and where should they get help, and how they should go about it?
Well, Sheridan really takes student success seriously. That's one of the things that really impressed me when I first joined Sheridan here. So there really are a lot of resources, and students need to be aware of them. So some of the main ones, I guess the first point of contact generally is student services. So if students are unsure where they can get help, that's sort of the first place to look. There are also resources available to them in the library and learning services. So there's tutoring that's offered in a variety of subjects, including English, math, and Java. So they need to be aware of that. Of course, the International Office is a great resource for international students. So if they're struggling with permit issues, immigration issues, the International Office is a great resource. There's also services on campus for careers, health services, and disability. So there are a lot of services available to them. If they're not sure where to go, they should probably start off with student services. And everyone here is really committed to student success.
Just to follow up on that question, a lot of students tend to rely a lot on friends for support and help, which is a good thing to have friends. But what would you say to those students in terms of heavy reliance on friends instead of the resources available?
Well, many of the friends, unfortunately, are struggling with the same issues, and many of them don't always have the right answers, whereas if they go specifically to the International Center, Student Services, the staff there have been specifically trained on these issues. They know exactly what the rules and regulations are. It's very difficult for another friend to know all of the immigration laws. It's probably unrealistic to expect a friend to know that. So while they may have the best of intentions, they probably don't have all the training and facilities. They don't have access to the same materials that the staff here at Sheridan do.
And what do you say to students who have Philip, what would you say to students who have a previous degree and then they come here to take a diploma similar to the degree they took, and they underestimate the expectations?
That's an interesting question. We have a number of, and there's a variety of ways to answer that. So let me first say that education from other parts of the world is great. And we certainly encourage students that have lots and lots of different backgrounds in education to come. I go back to what we had chatted a little bit about, that practical experience in terms of hands-on, and hands-on in terms of expectations. So it's not just the hands-on experience, but it is the expectations of your faculty that you will produce work that meets their practical types of activities. So we've had lots of students that have come and taken programming and taken it from a theoretical point of view, especially object-oriented programming, but have done very, very little in terms of coding an entire system. One of the big challenges for a lot of our international students is that if they've done programming, for example, they may have only programmed small units or small parts of a code or small objects, whereas the expectation when you come to us will be that you'll build a fully integrated system, that it will be lots and lots and lots and lots of code. And that code will be to solve a particular unique situation. So it's not something that you could go out and again, a lot of students make the mistake of, well, you know, if I want to code something, I'll go out to a universal resource like GitHub and I'll take the code and I'll simply modify it. That's not coding. That's using somebody else's idea. The concept here is that this practical work experience provides you the skill sets to go out into business and industry, goes and solve their problems. And so that's really the imperative part in terms of learning. The other thing that I would say to you is that if you come to us with previous experience and you want to take advantage of what that previous experience can be, we have a system called advanced standing. The trouble is that students' understanding of advanced standing is often a consequence of what they learned from their buddies. So allow me to set the information straight. To apply for advanced standing with a course that you have taken in another part of the world, any other part of the world, in fact, even in Ontario, you must apply for advanced standing. But here are the things that you must know about advanced standing. One, that information, that course, has to have been done in the last 5 years. Anything older than 5 years we won't accept. Two, that the course, you must supply distinct information not only about your institution, but also the course outline, what the learning outcomes were, and a physical transcript, an alphanumeric transcript. So it can't just say satisfactory. It has to be a graded transcript. You have had to have gotten an A or a B or a C or an 80% or a 90%. It has to be given in those terms. And if you have confusion about those things, ask the right people. Don't ask a friend. Go to student services and ask the right people, because that's the way to take advantage of your previous learning experiences to, in fact, actively be responsible for your education. And if there's anything that I would stress, is that one of the expectations of a Canadian student is that they are actively responsible for their education. We won't, in the classroom, in the assignments, no professor is going to chase you and say, oh, you didn't hand in an assignment. No professor is going to say, oh, you can hand that in late. We don't accept late assignments. Nobody is going to come and tell you what you need to do relative to your certification, whether it's a diploma, an advanced diploma, or a degree, whatever you were involved with here at Sheridan College. You are responsible for your education. You're responsible for being in the classroom. And that's a big difference. It's not just a big difference for international students, but it's a big difference for domestic students.
So with all of that expectations of being proactive in taking care of what you need to do, I'm going to ask you, Joe, after completing the program, what might an employer expect from a FAST graduate?
They would generally expect graduates to have the theoretical knowledge of the subject matter as well as the hands-on skill. So they're going to expect that students have done some practical work in the area. Also that students are accustomed to working in a group and that they work well with others, and that they're prepared to continue their learning. That as a new employee there will be lots to learn, and they'll have to continue learning to really excel at the new position.
And in order for a student to graduate, they have to succeed academically. So, Joe, how might one maintain their grades?
Well, a few things, as we touched on earlier. One is the idea of being interested in the subject matter. That's a very important factor, I believe, to student success. The other is consistent effort. So generally speaking, students who are interested in the subject matter and put in a consistent effort generally end up doing well in terms of the grades. The grades generally do follow the hard work and the interest. So those are some things for students to focus on.
I would also suggest that the last item on the slides in front of you is a question of manage your time well. And I make the joke with my students. I've always made the joke that when I was doing one of my undergraduate degrees, that I always felt that if I had been awake for 48, 72, 96 hours straight, that I was absolutely brilliant. But my professors never really found that that was the case. And what that means is that early on in my career, I learned that I couldn't leave things to the very, very last minute. That when I got an assignment, I needed to work on it. And that's about time management. For many of our students, and again, not just international, domestic as well, one of the best things that you can do is if you're not good at managing your time, if you're not good at planning out how the time works, go to Student Services and they have time management courses. You can take a course in time management or a seminar that will help you plan out your time, because one of the things that in terms of maintaining good grades and staying up on the work is this. You can expect that on a weekly basis, you will have at least one, if not two assignments per week for submission. So in a given 14-week period, and taking 5, 6, 7 classes, you could easily have upwards of 50, 60 assignments spread over that time period. If you leave them to the last minute, you're not going to do very well. And if you leave them to the last minute, you are going to make some mistakes. And more importantly, if you leave them and don't hand them in, then I want to stress, our faculty are very, very restrictive in terms of handing in late assignments. You will pay a penalty. So it's about that ownership of your education, of staying on top of it.
At this point, we'd like to answer some of the questions that have been posted, and I encourage everyone to feel free to ask some more questions. So the first question is from Subhan, and it says, I'm already in India. Can you tell me when can I come to check my college and take details about my schedule?
So one of the things is that Suham, is that if you have a Sheridan College student number, and if you've been given access to the Sheridan College website, and that would have been materials that have been presented to you, you can actually right now look at your schedule online. There's a facility called Access Sheridan, and because you've got a student username and a student password, that you can actually go in and look at your schedule, because it will have been posted online. So you would have been, you've been enrolled in a program, you've been accepted into a program, your fees have been paid, you can actually look at your schedule right now. And if you're not sure how that works, then the trick here is that you can contact somebody in the international office, and they can give you very, very specific instructions on how to fix that.
I would add to that, Subhan, that if you need further details on how to get your schedule, the last step that you need to do in order for your schedule to be released is to submit your study permit. You can scan and email it to international@sheridancollege.ca. with your student ID and full name, and then your schedule will be released to you. The second option is, as soon as you arrive on campus, come to the International Center and we will help you to get your schedule released. So video games.
Michael, you'd asked about video games, and they're very, very popular. I like playing myself. I'm a big COD person, so Call of Duty. And anybody out there that's Call of Duty, you want to throw a message up on the screen, or no? Okay. So we do have students that go through a 2-year program and want to get into gaming. The thing is this, is that as a consequence of the 2-year program, you probably you'd have good programming skills. There's no question about that. You'd need to enhance those. You'd need to refine those. And so one of the things that I would probably point you at would be that we do have a graduate certificate in game programming. Now the reason that I say that is that in our courses, we would focus in on programming languages like Java, C, Objective-C, and that would readily provide you with the skill sets to work in mobile environments, in business environments, to program applications, mobile applications for a number of different devices, iPhone, Android, and that's one of the big focuses here at Sheridan within the School of Applied Computing. If you're going into computing, for example, that we program for mobile devices. Game programming is a little bit different. Typically, game programming happens in a very specific type of programming engine. And so what you would need after your 2-year diploma, if you're in a 2-year program, would be some practical experience in that game engine. And so we do have a 12-month certificate. It is called a graduate certificate in game programming, and it's very popular, and that would in fact provide you with the skill sets to in fact go out and be competitive in a game environment. And there, you know, the gaming industry in North America is a $6 billion industry, so it is growing. There are a number of shops here in the Ontario area, as well as shops in Vancouver and Montreal. Those are the big gaming centers in all of Canada. With the larger ones, but what we see here in Ontario is in Canada is that there's a number of small shops that are coming up, and they're providing games for mobile devices. So it's a good question, and that's part of taking responsibility for education, seeing where next steps are.
I wanted to follow up on part of Mikhail's question about the contacts. So although I don't really have contacts in the gaming industry myself, the faculty members who teach in the gaming program do. Many of them have been in the industry for a long time. They're bringing a lot of practical skills and the contacts with them here at Sheridan. So I think you'd find that from the faculty members in the gaming program.
That's probably an interesting differentiation, which we haven't really explained, is that while many of our faculty have lots and lots of qualifications, it's also an expectation when you become a faculty here that you bring work experience into the classroom. So our faculty are not just people that have done their master's degrees and their PhDs and then stayed in a teaching environment. For all of us, pretty much universally, we've also spent quite a number of years out in industry. And so it's that combination, and I think that's the distinction between perhaps learning at other institutions, is that the faculty here all come with industry practical knowledge, and that's one of the things that we focus on, is that practical experience coming into the classroom. So Joe's point is really good, is that in our gaming program, many of them came to us having worked in the gaming industry. But likewise, many of them are people that are teaching in our mechanical programs, or our computing programs, or our electronics programs, or our computer engineering programs, have spent a number of years, before they've come to teach, have spent years in the industry. And so for example, just in the room, Joe's experience has been as a consultant in programming and has done quite a number of years in consulting and programming. My experience was from a systems and analyst point of view and from a database analyst point of view in terms of security. So we bring those skill sets to the classroom, and that's a distinction in terms of what you can expect in terms of learning, is that the focal point will be on that practical, real-world experience.
I encourage you to don't be shy and type up your question if you have any. In the meantime, I have a question for Joe. You mentioned earlier employer expectations is to be able to work with a team, right? And there's a lot of lab work here that's also teamwork oriented. How would you advise students on how to handle themselves in a teamwork environment? Do they have to find their teammates, or are they assigned to a team member, that type of thing?
Yeah, so first of all, and it depends on the classroom. So in some cases, the groups may be formed by the professor. In general, most of the time, students can choose their own groups. Students, of course, need to choose wisely, make sure that they choose people who they work well with, and then they need to ensure that essentially what typically happens is that different components of the project are split up amongst the group members. They need to ensure that they're contributing and that they're consulting with their group members and that everybody is working towards a common goal. And at times, they may need to help some of their team members who are struggling, or perhaps ask for help themselves. But to be conscientious, try to deliver on their commitments, and try to help other team members deliver on their commitments as well.
I would say that one of the things about being in a team, from the point of view of choosing wisely, is choose a variety of, don't always choose your friends. It's easy to choose your friends, but one of the things that employers are looking at, and the way to think about it from a practical experience, is that when you go to work someplace, you won't know those folks. So the more that you can improve your ability to deal with lots and lots of different people, the better off you're going to be. I know that it's convenient and sometimes comfortable to do work in a team with your buddies, but when you go out into the workforce, you're not going to know those folks. And so one of the things that I would suggest to both domestic and international students is choose different group members. Choose people that you've never met before. Choose people from different parts of the world, because that's what the employment experience is going to be. If you think about Sheridan College, there are people. Just the people. This team in the room is from all different parts of the world. My family came from Scotland, and so we brought a whole pile of things. I bring a whole pile of things to the workforce. But everybody in this room is from a different part of the world, or different experiences, and that's important. When you look at that teamwork, it's not just working with your buddies. It's understanding that this is also building the skills that are going to take you out into employment and work with different people.
That's a great point. I want to pick up on something that Phil said there, that many times group members can learn from one another. That's a key part of the learning process, and that sometimes by working with other people, you'll learn different things. So sometimes it is a good thing to sort of branch out and work with others. It's an opportunity to learn new things.
Well, I would add to that you're coming to Canada, and it's one of the most multicultural, diverse countries in the world. And take advantage. It's a mini United Nation, and you don't even have to travel the world to get to know other cultures. You can just learn them right where you are once you arrive here. So at this point, are there any other questions? Okay. Would you like to add anything else before we conclude?
Well, I just I think that one of the things that I would stress, and I'd like you to introduce yourself.
Okay.
Come on, it's on Scott. Because what it's important to understand that in tackling things, we need to tackle things as a team. So you know, my name's Philip, and I'm the Associate Dean, and you've met Joe. These are folks that are going to help us, help you from an international point of view.
So my name is Elena Sheik, and I'm International Student Coordinator at the Trafalgar campus. I'll be here to welcome you when you arrive to Canada, and be more than happy to answer any questions you may have about adjusting to Canada, finding a specific department, finding a place where to live. Any types of questions we're certainly used to within our office, and we'd be more than happy to help you. So please reach out to us via email, via phone, in person, via webinar. So if you have any questions at this point in time, please feel free to type them up, and we'd be very happy to answer those for you.
So I just saw that Alex, are you on the line? Alex Berriabin? Are you there? Don't be shy, type in. You know, I'll go through the entire participant list and ask people questions. So Alex, where are you? Asif, Asif, where are you from? Asif Nurani, where are you from? They're dropping out.
Don't be shy, guys.
We can see you, no?
That's right.
But like I said earlier, if you feel free to stay for the next webinar that will start in about half an hour, and it's about library services and tutoring and academic support. You're here, you're investing, your parents are investing in you, so don't take your investment lightly. And you know, you'll experience some challenges, but it would actually make you even that much more prepared to go out into the workforce. So thank you everybody for joining us, and I hope you have a good evening. Bye.